friends list must be massive.
Yeah.
Kind of question about what was the background. Sorry, I'm just actually realizing, did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah,
I do hear you. I just heard something happen in Skype because I was like, "Oh my God, did we just lose you?" So, what we can start with the typical question of how you got here as a recap. I think that's something that always gets talked about, but there might be people out there who maybe don't know how you first came to Second Life. So, do that typical question quickly.
Okay. Well, my real life aunt and uncle were actually in Second Life. They came in about a month before I did. They had read about it in Spin magazine, the music magazine, and they read about the music scene here and how, musicians would stream live concerts from, the comfort of their own home. They thought that was so cool. And my aunt and uncle are kind of old school hippies anyway, so they're into the alternative scene. So this was really, well, except for not being very computer literate, this was nothing new to them. It's funny, even after a year of being in Second Life, my uncle would call me, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" And so forth. So, but they were in it a month, and they called me up and said, "You have got to check this out. We met an artist, and face to face. It was the coolest thing, and they're doing a mural for our home." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Yeah, and so I got an avatar. I met my aunt in World. She took me shopping, and I still actually have the same shape that I bought over 6 years ago. And within a week, I had a condo, and I had my own little gallery. And I think it was called like Renaissance. It was the Renaissance Mall, and it was a great little place. And I think that's when I first met Tasia from our simulacra in NMC, and it all just kind of sprang from there, exploded from there, really.
And you started showing your paintings first.
Yes, I uploaded digital copies of my abstract paintings in Second Life, and so I had a little gallery of my own paintings.
And when did you start messing around and saying, well, maybe there's more that I can do here than just kind of showing the paintings?
Well, actually, that had to do with school. While I was in Second Life, I was working on my master's degree in art history. And my original thesis in art history was going to be on filmic representations of women artists. So I was going to talk about like Frida and Artemisia Gentileschi and Camille Claudel. And I've always been, I'm a feminist, and I believe in, in equality, and, so I always talk about that stuff. And then all of a sudden, when I was like one day in Second Life, I'm like, oh my God, I should write my art history thesis on Second Life. And so I talked to my professor about it at the time, and she's like, it's a great idea. What would be the what angle do you want to take? And so it took me a while. And then while I was thinking about that and working on that, I actually changed my major from my master's in art history to my master's in studio art. And so because I wanted to focus on my own art rather than other people's, and I wanted to, work on my own art rather than talking about and writing about and researching other artists. So I transferred to studio art in the painting department, and I went and met the advisor there, the main professor, and I took some of my paintings, and I also took my laptop to show them Second Life. And she loved Second Life. She loved what I was doing here. She just thought it was, really very cool and up and coming, and she saw great things. And she told me later on that she accepted me into the painting program based on Second Life rather than my paintings. And I always think, okay, what does that mean about my paintings? But so that's through that advisor and that professor, she had me really start to think about why I'm in Second Life, and she was really curious why my avatar looks like she does, this tall, thin, blonde, beautiful woman, where in real life I'm shorter, I'm, overweight, I'm definitely the opposite. So Yeah.
But girl says, because
I
that's the
know,
law.
I saw that. So from that's kind of where everything changed, and I started to get into identity and start to really think about what it means to have an avatar and why we choose the avatars we do, and what happens behind the avatar or inside the avatar and so forth. I know that's a little longer than you probably wanted, but
Not at all. No, it's good. It's good because obviously, I mean, I think a lot of people in the audience know I've interviewed you before. I've written about your work. You were one of the first artists that I ever wrote about when I came here,
Yeah.
a little over 3 years ago now. I'm new compared to a lot of people. I don't have a resident last name, but
Yeah.
but I'm
Luckily.
not that new. But yeah, so I mean, and I was really drawn to your conversation with my avatar. It was something that we've obviously talked about in writing, and I've said to you many times. I've said other places my particular favorite panel in that series is the one where Gracie's sitting in the studio and Chris is standing out in the rain, and you say, I love,
Oh, yes.
I love the feeling of the rain on my skin, and Gracie says, I'll never feel the rain, and it's
Yeah.
just the moment. I just love that because it's the moment in that series, which I know wasn't a planned out narrative, was it? It was a real
No.
kind of organic conversation that happened, in your day to day.
Yeah. And that started, and yeah, it changed all the time. The conversation started because of a suggestion from my professor, who, what I did was while I was doing research on avatars and identity, and I found the study that Stanford was doing on how your avatar influences you in real life. And so I wanted to take that into practice, and I wanted to see and show how Gracie has influenced me, how she's changed me, the kind of the person I've become because of Gracie. And so I decided to take pictures of myself and Gracie, or take a picture of myself and Gracie every day. And I think I did it for about a week. And first of all, I hate pictures of myself. I just don't think I'm in real life. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm very photogenic. And so it was a big deal to do that project. So I took them, I photoshopped them, or I placed the pictures next to each other, and took them in to show my professor, and she really liked that direction, and she saw in that a conversation that even at the time there were no written words, but she saw this conversation between the two of us forming, and she asked what we would say to each other, what Gracie would tell me. And so she challenged me to go home and actually write out conversations. And at first I was like, I don't know, is that too schizophrenic? Is it, I don't know. And so I started to do it, and I realized that, Gracie, we all talk to ourselves, whether it's in the car, in the shower, and we all have that inner voice that, that we... sorry, I was reading Harlequin's thing. Thank you, Harlequin.
Harlequin says, you're gorgeous in real life, Gracie. And then Hypatia, I like that we all talk to ourselves. Yeah, we do. We definitely do. I mean, imagine it might have felt a little contrived at first, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But I started to think it was actually, and even today, it's still kind of tough. I still don't even quite understand it myself who Gracie is. I mean, she is a part of me. She's like my inner self. I say she's my inner beauty. She's, she is definitely me, but I also have gone back and forth, and she's been somebody separate too. She just, I don't know. It's, I've played with that back and forth, and I still, I don't get confused by it, but I still wonder who she is, and yeah, I don't know.
Well, she's clearly an evolution of things, and
yes.
One of the things I want to talk to you about, I want to go back in time, continue going back in time, because we're talking about things that you did several years ago now, but that's kind of what this birthday is all about: looking forward, looking back, or whatever the
Absolutely.
theme is, looking back, looking forward. So I'm recalling a conversation that you and I had, and I don't know if you remember it, but it was I think around the time I was interviewing you for your ekphrasis, it might have been slightly after I wrote it, but you were actually going on Designing Worlds, and I see Safi has just come in. Okay. So, and we were chatting about, and this was around the time that, so for people who are familiar with your project, but otherwise, hopefully they're going to go to your website and look at this up. So Gracie, as everyone recalls, she does the conversation with her avatar, and then for your master's project, you decided that you wanted to become Gracie. Chris was doing kind of, you went shopping and you cut your hair like Gracie. So in real life, you were becoming Gracie, and then in Second Life, you were turning Gracie into Chris, and you did performance pieces around that. And what I found really interesting in this conversation, and I think that you've said it elsewhere too, is that you felt like there was a failure when you Chris tried to become Gracie. You felt really uncomfortable with it, and
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I remember you telling me at that moment you felt like it was a failure. Your attempt to become Gracie was a failure because you weren't, well, it wasn't a comfortable skin. Okay.
Yes.
So, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so you were, and I found that really fascinating too, because I mean, I certainly didn't see it that way at all. I thought what you were doing was really interesting. So now what I want to ask you, we're looking back, looking forward. Do you still feel it was a failure now that you see what you've done? Because that conversation was probably 2.5 years ago, or maybe a little more.
Oh, I think 3.5. I graduated in 2010. Yeah.
God, how long am I coming up on? I guess I'm coming up on my 4th birthday. I don't even know. Yeah, I guess it was about 3 years ago.
Yeah. I graduated exactly 3 years ago. So
holy crap!
Yeah, it would have been about 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay, so now 3 years later, looking back, do you still see that as a failure, or do you see that piece of it as a failure, or do you think what you weren't done yet?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I guess not. I mean, right now, I don't see it as a failure. I mean, at the time I did because of what was going on at the time. But, you know, everything that I have done with Gracie, you know, the conversations, the photos, the performance art, has led me to this point. And it has been a roller coaster ride. It's, you know, and of course, being an artist, I've been talking about this with my friends lately too. You always doubt yourself. You know, as an artist, you know, even though, you know, you want to try and be confident, you always, you know, you want to make sure you get the message across, and there's always self-doubt. So I think at the time of my life, I had a lot going on, and so it felt like a failure. But everything that I've done combined, and I can't think of the right word right now,
the culmination?
Culmination, thank you. The culmination of everything that I have done has led me to have a comfortable skin today. So
right. So yeah, tell us about what a comfortable skin is, because it was obviously there's a reason I pulled that phrase out. So tell us what that is.
Well, through I freely talk about this. I have an eating disorder in real life, and actually I'm at the point where I like to say I'm recovering from an eating disorder. What did Bot Girl say there? Let's see.
Oh, keep going. I'll go back and repeat that. Okay, it's a good point.
Okay. So, you know, my relationship with oh gosh, I think I just totally lost my train of thought.
A comfortable skin, eating disorder. Okay. You say you're recovering.
Oh yes. Because of like the work, because I did a performance in real life where I shaved my head, talking about body image and, you know, finding the beauty within. All of my all of my work, you know, I share a lot on Facebook about, you know, finding your own beauty and being yourself. And the more I do that, the more I believe it. And so I think all of that has led me to be more comfortable with who I am and not be afraid of who I am either, which, you know, having an eating disorder involves a lot of fear, especially food, but more than that. So once I become less scared of who I am, as, an overweight woman who, who's short, who doesn't look like Gracie, then it's easier to be comfortable in my own skin. I don't know.
So a comfortable skin is a piece that you're working on, and yes. So tell us what that is exactly. Actually, I'll just say Bot Girl made the comment that maybe it's the experience journey that ends up being the main benefit, and any particular end is just a landmark along the way. So
yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I mean, this project is going to continue. All of my work with Gracie is going to continue also. So this is just, it's definitely a landmark along the way. As I've been finding myself, literally finding myself, and finding myself more comfortable with who I am and being myself and not being afraid, I decided to, well, actually, I shouldn't say it that way. I started to think about who Gracie is. Originally, I felt she was my self-portrait. Like I said, she was my inner beauty. Mm-hmm. Once I started to become more comfortable with who I was in real life, I actually changed Gracie and to who she is sitting in front of you with the painted skin. That was a huge change because, for a long time, she had the human form. And she had, it was a little more classy, more, quote, beautiful. And then when I became comfortable with who I was in real life, I felt I didn't need Gracie to be the way she was. I didn't need to lean on her or to be her. I don't know. So I wanted to be more, artistic, I guess. I wanted to be the artist. I wanted to be different and kind of stand out as not a woman, but as an artist, I guess. So I wanted to kind of change my identity in that way. And so I became this, it's the same shape, but it's just I used one of my paintings as a skin. And actually I was playing with this in Worlds with Nikki, and it kind of, there's always happy accidents that happen. When I was in Worlds is, of course, the other virtual world that a lot of people from Second Life are in. I wanted to be Gracie in Worlds. I wanted to look like the Gracie who's here today, the same body and shape, but of course they don't have that. So I was playing around and I'm like, well, then I'm going to be different and have the painting, play with the painting on my skin, and I loved it. And that is kind of what sparked the idea of change. So there were a few different things that kind of came into play. And then when I, when I realized that I was changing and that evolution was happening, I think that helped along the way too. It helped propel me. So in a way, my avatar is influencing my real life. So the Stanford study is right in a way.
Well, and I find that really interesting too, because I every time I do these interviews, I've had the privilege to interview so many amazing people and incredible looking avatars. Bot Girl, for example, Rose Borchovsky, just people who have these really interesting looking avatars. And I always find when I'm sitting next to them that I'm kind of boring. Where I feel, or my little, Rowan, the avatar. She's basically similar to how you created Gracie and how many of us do. We come in, we make someone pretty, we make what we like aesthetically. I like playing Pixel Barbie with her. That's really fun. But also it does relate to, so sometimes I think I should have a much more artistic out there avatar. Why am I looking like a human? That's stupid. And I think, well, but actually what I do here in Second Life, though, I'm not creating art much, occasionally, so it kind of fits what it is that I'm doing, I suppose, in a way. But so it's interesting how those kinds of things, because I was going to ask you, like, do you miss shopping for Pixel clothes? Because you were quite the snappy dresser when I met you.
Yeah, but I wore the same things all the time. I hate shopping. Yes, I am not a shopper.
Early days. I remember seeing you in some really cute dresses at like Pirates openings and things like that. It was before the age of your jeans and your tool belt with the paintbrushes on it.
And, I probably had 5 dresses in my inventory that I would wear over and over again.
Maybe I only saw you 5 or 6 times for each one. So anyway, I was just going to repeat some of the comments for the purposes of the stream because they're really great. Bot Girl astutely commented. Actually, no, it was, well, yes, you did astutely comment before, but it was Hypatia who just said that it's a terrific evolution. So many of us cling to the realistic kind of beauty, which actually kind of relates to what I just said, too.
Yeah.
Bot Girl, Mavis Staples has a new song with the lyric, "I like the things about me that I once despised." I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
And Deirdre Quandary says, it's interesting how often the shape we are becomes important even when the surface changes. So one of the things that, I was trying to get at with a comfortable skin is, so you've made this skin, but now you are, how's it coming back into real life?
Well, my work in Second Life has always, or I've always been interested in how to blur the line between realities, between Second Life and real life, how to bring Second Life into real life. And unfortunately, we all know that Second Life has a bad rap to the public, and I want to change that. Because there's so many wonderful things about Second Life, the creativity, the building. I mean, how many architects do we know here that use, the tools that Second Life offers to create these amazing malls in Egypt, or, the Frank Lloyd Wright homes, or, I mean, it's just, we know, it's an amazing space. And of course, the virtual art alone, I think it was Wizard, Guynode, have you seen what she's doing? I think it's in N-Worlds, but just amazing. And so, I want the world to see that, especially the art world, because with Second Life, even though, yes, it has a huge fashion industry, it has a huge music industry, Second Life is so important for art because it's very visual. It's, look at all the pictures. Whiskey, Monday, oh my God.
She's here tomorrow night.
Yes, I know. So cool.
I'm really excited.
And I know, and Strawberry Sing, of course. Look at the photos that they come up with. They're so visual and so, beautiful as art. I mean, I'm surprised they're not in galleries, to be honest, in real life. Yeah. And so I want people the real life art world especially to see that, to see, the wonderful things that are going on here. So, in my own way as an artist, I want to bring Second Life to real life. And, of course, I had a show, it's been a year now, where I turned a gallery in LA, in Los Angeles, into a 1920s dining room in the form of Gertrude Stein. And we had a dinner party between Second Life and real life. And it was so much fun. It was just so cool. And I hung, portraits from the 1,000 avatars on the wall. And people that were there in real life were amazed. They had no idea what Second Life was, and they're like, "You're having dinner with those people? And I said, "Yeah, I mean, like, Glyph is from Australia, he was there. Friends from Bevan was there from France, Washington, Canada, Nikki was there. I mean, all over the world, in this creative space, and people thought it was really cool." Yeah. I also did another performance at the gallery called Second Skin, and I was logged into Second Life, and people came in and watched what I was doing, and they thought it was fascinating. They were going to go home and log in, and create avatars. And so, excuse me, with this new project, it's just another way of, like I said, bringing Second Life into real life, especially with the avatars. So I don't know if you want to lead into that or.
Well, no. What I was wondering about is you've made these avatars from mannequins now, right? And you've got some on display in a gallery. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What happened was I had my avatar that you see in front of you here as my profile picture on Facebook. And a friend of mine on Facebook messaged me and said, "Oh my God, I know somebody who would love that mannequin." And I'm like, "Oh, it's a visual, it's a virtual computer character. It's not, it's not three-dimensional. It's not real." And so the next day I was driving around and I'm like, "Well, duh. I mean, why not? What better way to bring the avatar into real life than, make it real, make it physical?" So I went, like, that afternoon, I went driving around looking for mannequins, and I ended up ordering some online and painting them in my painting style, to bring the avatars into real life. And it's been really interesting because it's been a great way to brand and to get people talking about avatar in general, like what an avatar is. Now, I said from the beginning, I said these are not mannequins, they're avatars. And even sometimes I still say mannequins, but most people say, "Oh, how are your avatars?" So they're not saying mannequins, which I think is really, really cool.
And how's it translating? I was just wondering, how's it translating in the gallery space? Because what's interesting is it's one of these pieces, right, that you can walk into a gallery and know absolutely nothing about any of the background to it, and it just stands alone.
Yeah,
but the process makes it so much more rich. I mean, they're really beautiful standing alone anyway. But have people asked you about them in the gallery setting? I don't know if there was an opening or anything like that for this.
Well, the picture to our, I guess, left, or the picture
right as you're looking at the stage.
Yeah. Is a photograph from when I had them set up at an art walk that I had where I live here. And what I did was I projected Second Life avatars above it. You could see I created 16 avatars, all with different body shapes and sizes, and Fuchsia Nightfire filmed them dancing. So dancing in a row. It was really, really cool. So I projected those avatars dancing above the real avatars. Mm-hmm. And it gave the effect, I mean, and somebody mentioned this, and I had kind of thought of it as if the real avatars, were kind of dreaming about dancing or about movement or something like that. So when people came in, and you should, it was really, really cool. I like that, yeah. When people came in and saw these, they loved them, and they asked me about Second Life. They saw what was happening with them. They kind of got it. So what I did was I submitted the avatars to a gallery in Beverly Hills. There was a call out for artists for these art parties that they're having. And I submitted the avatars, and they contacted me and said, "Oh my God, we love your work. We want you in our show." So I was like, "Oh, how cool. That's yay." So the opening is actually this Saturday, and I took the avatars in. Yeah. I took the avatars in, and the gallery, it's a regular art gallery. They're not necessarily into new media per se. So they are taking the avatars based on the aesthetic, not the concept. Yeah. And I did think about that. I'm like, is that okay? Do I want to do that? But if I have a chance to sell them, I need the money. So, why not? And it gets my name out there. It gets, hopefully people looking at my website where they will see the concept of a comfortable skin, behind them. Yeah. And, I've told everybody, even, the girl in the gallery, I said, and actually if I sell these, that's great, because I'm going to continue with these avatars, but I'm going to make them, I'm going to start getting more different body shapes and sizes, overweight and plus size, and, all sorts of body shapes and sizes, because I don't think that we should be, there should be a standard size of, the mannequin size. So if I sell these, that'll kind of clear the way to move on into kind of the next part of the project, which, hopefully I'll sell them. But, so that's kind of what's happening with that right now.
Gracie, I have to say this before I forget. Are you going to be able to put anything on the gallery wall, like a QR code? Have you thought about doing that?
Oh, actually, I don't know if they're going to have my website or not. I probably won't, but they did say they would have like labels. I don't know if they'll have a QR code or not, but I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, you should just make one and stick it next to
Yeah.
your label. You could even put it on a sticker and just have it there,
That's
because
true.
then anyone standing around, who's interested, they can go straight to your website there. I'm really big on that kind of thing right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Those are
think
great.
actually, I mean, I definitely, one of the things I want to talk about with everybody, and maybe we can sort of talk about this as a wrap up and open it up to questions and conversation is, how do we get this work taken more seriously? It's, I think I talk about this every year, but it's just, it becomes more and more urgent, I think. How do we get virtual art translated across? Augmented reality is the obvious solution. I have a lot of people, yourself, Ian Upton later this week, who've had really successful augmented reality exhibits.
Yeah.
But I think that part of the picture too is curators. I mean, personally, I made a big leap this year in doing a presentation on virtual curation at the art school I work at. And in a way, it was very scary because I felt a little bit like it was a career make or break moment, and it went down wonderfully. I was very pleased, and they're interested in me coming and doing more about that. So I think
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's not to talk about. This isn't about me. This is about you. But it's more like it's that so many artists are being brave and doing these really great things, and I think we sort of curators and historians need to do that as well. So, advise me. I'm asking for advice from you and for the audience. What do we need to do? What do curators need to do? What do artists need to do to try to get this taken more seriously?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm a member of the Los Angeles Center for Digital Arts, which is a great space for all digital arts. And I've gotten to know the gentleman that owns it, Rex Bruce, and he's interested in what I'm doing. In fact, a couple of years ago, through the College Art Association and the New Media Consortium, they had an art talk at the LACDA where they had 6-minute presentations from artists. And I applied and I got in. And so what I did was I had a friend film Gracie talking for 6 minutes. So Gracie actually gave a presentation to the audience at the Los Angeles Center for Digital Arts. And people loved it. It was so cool. And so, I think just keep working and getting the work out there. I follow a page on Facebook. It's called It's called File, and it's the electronic. What is it? The Electronic Arts, International Festival. And they have amazing work. And I went on the website and I noticed they actually have machinima. I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God. They had machinima. They had, what else did they have? They had other, images from Second Life, other art. And so I'm like, I want to get on the site. I have to get on the site because it wasn't just Second Life. It was all new media, digital art. And, excuse me. So I think, just getting the work out there. Artists have to get the work out there too, not just curators and art historians, but, we have to do the work. I think a lot of artists just like, working and that's it. But if we want to, really get it out there, I know Breno, she's great about, getting it out there, applying for grants. I apply for grants all the time. And, it's scary. It's very scary, especially in Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is a huge center for arts. And a lot of people still don't understand it. It's not painting. It's not photography. It's something totally different. And so it's still not being taken seriously. Yeah. But, we need to change that, like I said, by getting out there.
Well, and Botgirl just made the really excellent point, of course, that one challenge is that a lot of art revolves around collectors and investors. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I won't pretend to be an expert on the Los Angeles art community, but it does seem to be a place where it's very much about collecting and collectability, investments. And I'm not sure if it's one of the great frontiers for digital art or not. I mean, obviously there's digital art collectives there, so I'm wondering, just as you say, that it's a combination of a lack of understanding and the fact that that work isn't exactly collectible.
Yeah, and yeah, Hypatia, she just mentioned the Los Angeles New Media Festival. I think Drax also had, didn't he have the Drax files in there or something? I wasn't able to go, but there are, different venues, there are different platforms for showing new media art. But yeah, I mean, Los Angeles is a place for collectors, and luckily, with my work, because I'm also a painter, I do, I can straddle, both sides of the coin. Right. I can, be cutting edge, and like for instance, I submitted a video that Fuchsia did from my LEA installation. I don't know if you saw this.
Yes.
The CNS Pass un Peinture.
Which you have a second version of here at the birthday celebration.
Yes, I do.
I saw it. It's lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, I submitted the video that Fuchsia did to a gallery here in downtown LA called Traction Arts. And they're showing video. What they do is they have a window of, it's actually a loft, a art studio. They have a window that's facing a main street. And what they're doing is they're projecting video through the window so you could see the work as you drive by or walk by. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's brand new. I submitted the video and it was accepted. And so it's actually starting to play this weekend, and they're having like a closing reception on July 8th. And so, that's another way to get, to get the work out there. Yeah, Fuchsia did the video.
Yeah, and I'm getting really great comments, and actually, I'm actually even getting some comments via our Skype conversation from Mal that are really good about QR codes, and he wishes QR codes could be linked to virtual, to actually like in world, and actually Mal's made the point, people do buy whole sims and such for installations for private collections, and they probably keep them offline, and that's really true. I mean, the thing I think we have to change how we think about this a little bit, because people collect new media work, and it's not stuff that they can hang on their wall. I mean,
yes.
People collect Bill Viola. You know what I mean? People collect video art, and they collect things that are ephemeral. I mean, we could go even further back, and so it's not. I mean, it is true that obviously for some kinds of collectors that's important, but this work is collectible. It's collectible if it's obviously in an open grid, but it's collectible in its other forms too, as machinima. It can be. It is a challenge, and how to think about it. But it's certainly collectible for museums, and it's certainly we obviously live. I feel like I do live in a community, luckily in Glasgow, where new media is actually quite well respected.
Yes.
And we have some great spaces for this kind of thing, and I think it would go down like a house on fire to have an exhibit here, and so I've been stewing on that one for years now. I need to sort that out.
I have an idea. Fuchsia did an installation at the Paris Metro Center here in Second Life, and she just shot a video of it this morning, and it's amazing. Like the floors and the ceilings and the walls are all video, and she put the video from the LEA install, and what we did was we had avatars that were dressed in skins dancing around. It was so cool, and I'm like, we have to do this in real life. I'm like, we have got to, bring this immersive environment. And I had already thought of that too, because I would love to film, to bring the LEA exhibit into real life. Just where you walk into a room and you're immersed in the projection of that color from the CNS Pass un Peinture.
Yeah.
And so again, of course, blurring the lines, and how does like Jennifer Steinkamp, who does video art, how is her work collected? So it's I don't know if I'm doing it to be collected, but to again, to get the work out there and to show what we do here.
Yeah, I think one of the great breakthroughs that is happening with people who are doing augmented reality installations, and like you, and I'll say Ian Upton and Rose Borchowski, Saskia Boudica, is that they're showing work that is not meant to be collected, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's meant to be ephemeral. It's meant to be site-specific. It's public work. It's publicly commissioned work in both cases, too, which is fantastic. And so that's really, really exciting. You're getting some questions coming in. I'd like to open up the floor to questions from our audience here. I've got some questions via Skype. Actually, Bevan is asking questions. Is that right, Mel? So we've got questions. Oh, these are questions coming, I think, from people watching online. Oh my God, that's so cool. Exciting.
I love that. Don't you love that?
Yeah. Bevan is watching and wants to know what your next project is. Yeah, it's awesome. What's your next project? Are you doing any more mixed reality? And are you going to be working with other VWs? Virtual world.
Yeah.
For those. I'm really out of my car.
I know. All good questions. Right now, I'm actually kind of taking a break. I have so much going on this month. I am moving, and I live at it's called the Brewery Artist Lofts in Los Angeles. So I'm moving to. I'm sorry.
It's a cool new place. I've seen the pictures.
Yes, it's a very cool new place. So I'm moving the next couple of weeks. So I haven't been able to paint or do anything, which I'm really, really itching to work, but I can't. And plus I've been sick the last couple of weeks. I'm finally feeling a little better, even though you could still tell I'm congested, I'm sure. I do plan on continuing A Comfortable Skin. I'm continuing, like I said, with the avatars of, instead of doing, getting the regular mannequins, I want to get the plus size or, full figured mannequins, or doing a mold of myself, doing a cast of myself and painting. Wow. I think, that would be the next evolution, especially since you could see Chris here in the audience, who she's actually made to look like me in real life. So I think it's like the next step. I also want to get back to painting on canvas, to doing my drip paintings with the outlines. I've been thinking a lot about that. I want to do projection, and I also want to do more performance art. In fact, I want to do performance art in real life where I'm nude. That's like
amazing. God, you are brave. And I don't mean I couldn't do it for sure.
Well, it's funny. A friend of mine is a portrait painter, an amazing portrait painter. Excuse me. And she suggested, she's like, I want to paint you nude. And I'm like, okay. Just like that. I was like, okay, because I know she would do it very tastefully. She's amazing. And so I've been posing for her, and in fact, there's like a couple of images on my blog of the early painting. We're still working on it, but what we're going to do is I'm going to preview that in about a month at a housewarming I have in my new loft, and I'm going to project Gracie onto the canvas. So I'm Gracie nude. But I've also, like a year ago, I experimented where I was home alone and I took the projector and I stood in the middle of the room nude, and I projected Gracie onto myself nude. And it was really, really interesting. I took photos. I've submitted them to a couple places, and I'm still waiting to hear back. But I would love to do a performance like that also, where I stand there and Gracie is projected onto me. I think, that's absolutely the next step, the next evolution in this, mixed reality work. Yeah. So that's kind of, thoughts that are going on in my head.
Those are great.
And, I want to do more performance art in Second Life, too. So I actually I'm a member of Copelia, which is a new artist sim with, like, Glyph Graves and Joe Ellesmere, Oberon and RT and Freewee and Pywack and Stellark. And we have a show coming up, opening in a week, and we also want to do collaborate together. So I'm like, how exciting to work with all these like amazing minds and amazing artists. So that's exciting too, because I want to learn machinima and I want to learn scripting, because I have to. If I want to keep up with all the amazing machinimists like Hypatia there, and all the amazing scripters like Nikki, I'm like, I have to learn to do this stuff. So that's nice kind of
too. I think it's one of the most wonderful things about Second Life is the collaborative spirit, because the exhibitions that I've been privileged to curate have all been collaborative, and things like, Glyph. We wanted to make PJ's photographs float. We got Glyph.
Yeah.
He came over and wrote a script for us in 2 seconds, and it's just like that too.
Yep.
So you don't have to kill yourself on that one right away. Yeah. You've got all these lovely people.
But I hate asking for help.
I know. I have no choice.
Like
so,
like,
so you have. I know you have a couple other questions, and there's one in the audience too. So, but Dirk had asked online, considering developments in LED picture frames, do you think video art will find a market there? It already has, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I am not up on video art right now. Like I said, that's why I want to learn machinima.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the digital age. Anything's possible. I mean,
I can
something new.
Yeah, I can sort of answer that question because I've seen quite a few installations lately in the UK that are using digital picture frames. And in fact, we just had the degree show at the Glasgow School of Art, and a lot of the graduating students are utilizing them inside of paintings or they're forming parts of their installations. It's a huge way of working now. Absolutely true.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I mean, and I've seen it down at FACT in Liverpool. Yeah, I think it's pretty well established now. So it's a really good point and a good question to come up, though, because it's certainly a way to get this work out there. And in my curatorial brain, exactly the way I would display works by people like Whiskey and PJ and Ziki. I've already curated that exhibit in my head.
Yeah, that's great.
Using digital picture frames, it's just expensive.
Yeah,
very expensive because you have to have one. It's huge. So, Botgirl says virtual worlds as a platform viewed in 2D is very different than virtual art experienced in a virtual world, and that's absolutely true too, because you miss the interactive. But there is a huge portion of virtual art produced here that is virtual photography, and I think some of the most amazing stuff that comes out of here is virtual photography, and it gets. It shows up in magazines, it shows up in Flickr, and there's I think there's a way that it's almost marginalized in the same way photography is in the real art world to some degree. So anyway, I won't go off on that one, though. That we can save that for tomorrow night when Whiskey's here. We'll ask her more about that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So was there another question? I know Hypatia had a question. Oh, I think she has work for you. Would you be available in fall 2014?
Probably. Probably. Yay.
Jessica, we have an amazing photographer also here, Jessica. I've also curated her in my head. Jessica.
There's an artist, Turbo. Oh, I can't think of her name. We're friends on Facebook. She actually creates sculptures in Second Life, and she transports them somehow into websites. And she had a show. It was an online show. It was actually really, really cool. It was on Tumblr. I'll have to find it and send you the link. But she had this amazing sculpture in Second Life, this really cool abstract image. And the way and I don't know, I'm not up on computer programs or anything like that, whether it was Maya, Blender, or what it was, but she made it three-dimensional on a website, and the image on the website, it looked like the inside of a real gallery. So when you looked at your computer, you looked like you were looking at the inside of a gallery, and in the middle of that gallery was this virtual sculpture. It's hard to explain, but the sculpture turned, and so it was a really cool way of bringing Second Life into real life, and it was an online show. There was an article about it because it was talking about how to bring online work into real life, and it was really, really fascinating.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
Yeah,
please do. Actually, give me these links, because what I'm going to do is once the wonderful Mal and Pet have produced this, I think I'll blog these videos individually, and maybe we can include links from some of the conversation and maybe even some of the chat that's going on too, because we've got some really great things. Like Jessica did just make the comment, SL is a great platform for narrative generation of like photography. and I think that that's really true. And Nikki, did Pathfinder create that application?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I have a question rising out of what you just said that maybe Bot Girl can even answer. Is what about the 3D printing? I mean, what can we do with Second Life? I mean, obviously, if you're creating something in Maya to bring into Second Life, then you can use the same application to then. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole world opening right there. You can make pizza.
For the longest time, I want to bring Gracie into real life. I work on that. I think about that. I've created stickers and, other things like that. But I'd love to make her a hologram and, actually have a real conversation between me and her as a hologram. Kind of like they did for Kanye West. When they did not Kanye, Tupac.
Tupac.
Tupac. Yes, remember?
Jesus,
this is like a couple of years after he died.
That was way more interesting. Not Kanye though.
Yeah, not Kanye. No.
He has conversations with himself on Twitter all the time.
yeah. But I thought it would be really cool to do that, and I've also wanted to, make Gracie like a figurine, like some type of figure, and I thought 3D printing would be perfect. And I've asked several people, and they said, well, it's complicated.
It's also really expensive right now, isn't it? Really expensive.
Like Drax had his figures from Floofy made into 3D, and they're so cool. But they're mesh, and they were made in in Maya or Blender or whatever. So they had the background. Yeah, they already had everything there. Whereas like me being Gracie, because I would want it to look exactly like Gracie. My shape is 6 years ago. It's definitely not mesh. Right. So, I heard that they'd have to take hundreds of pictures from all different views, and it would be this huge. Yeah, exactly. Miku Hatsune also from the Japanese singer. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And Bot Girl, you just said Action Figure is the killer app for Second Lifers. What's Action Figure? We'll have to wait for the response now. I know that. So there's it's obviously it's just changing, amazing all the time. And I actually just read, this isn't even that high tech, but I read something the other day, which I need to give you the link for, about a company that you can commission mannequins from. The Costume Society actually posted it.
Oh.
You can commission. It was, and they didn't seem that expensive. I'll give you the link, definitely.
Thank you.
Oh, Bot Girl, kind of a joke, kind of not.
Oh.
Life-size avatar blow-up dolls.
Action.
That
would be kind of cool.
I'm so pleased that I had no idea what you were talking about there. Clearly not something in my purview.
Well, Joseph DeLapp, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did the Gandhi in Second Life. He did a great performance. He created like a 12-foot Gandhi, a 3D like physical Gandhi that's an avatar figure. I mean, it's like based on his Second Life avatar. It was very, very cool. So it can be done. I know it can be done. It's just a matter of...
Nikki just said there's a way to export your avatar shape into Blender.
Yeah.
So that creates some interesting possibilities too.
See, my avatar shape though is no mod.
Right. It's the one from 6 years ago.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
I'll wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up with a final question that I probably will be asking everybody. But so, and it's a kind of a crazy one. It's a terrible one to put you on the spot, just because I'm sure it'll be looking back in your how many years? How old's your avatar?
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that jumps out at you that it no longer exists in Second Life that you wish did still exist?
Oh gosh.
The one thing you'd like to see again.
Yeah. What's the word? I would have to say my what's the word I'm thinking of? My, like, being a beginner, the newness of it, if that makes sense.
Right.
As you grow up in Second Life, you don't become, I guess you do become tired, but yeah, maybe my innocence, that's a great that's a great word.
The wonder of it.
Actually. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, it's still a wonderful platform, but it ebbs and flows. It's I love the art here. I love I love everything about it, but when I was younger, everything was so cool. It's just like being a kid in real life, and then you grow up and get responsibilities and, and it's not the same. And so I think that's, I mean, I wish the innocence was back and the wonder. I mean, there's still wonder, but it's different. It's, it's, now the politics are involved. What's behind SL. I don't know, and you hear the gossip and the rumors that Second Life's going to close, or all of that stuff. Not that that's going to happen at all, but it's as a kid, you don't think about war, you don't think about anything like that. So it was kind of the same thing as when you were younger in Second Life, you didn't think about that. You just wandered and danced and saw all the cool newness. So,
you didn't think about how things now they look old, or that's so 2006, that's so 2007. It's not mesh.
I don't, because like I said, I'm not really a shopper. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff, but I never looked at things that way, because it depends on the builder, it depends on I mean, I still have furniture that's old, but it's cool, it's nostalgic. So
it's like vintage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's it's I look at pictures from 2006 and 2007, and they're funny to look at, but they're history. They're a part of who we are and who we grew into. So I love that. So I can't make fun of it.
Well, Gracie, thank you so much for being here. This was fascinating, and it's great because you opened up, I think the conversation opened up so many questions that I hope we keep talking about all week.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you. And I hope people in the audience and listening in come back. We'll be out here at 3:00 every day this week. And I'll just, there's a poster on the wall behind me that says what we're going to be doing, but I'll just say, so tomorrow I'm talking to Whiskey Monday. I'm really excited. I think she's going to be hysterical. So I think everyone's going to be great, but she's not someone I've talked to before, so I'm pretty excited about that. Wednesday, we're talking to Draxter Disprace about all of his amazing machinima. Thursday, I'll be talking to Ian Upton about his recent augmented reality exhibits, and he's with Stellark, performances with Stellark. Friday, Chic Aeon will be here, talking also about machinima and her new projects. And then Saturday, dun dun dun, I'm actually going to be talking to Breno. I didn't think she'd come, but she is.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Sorry, I didn't mean to choke on that. I'm getting all nervous just talking. Bryn will be great. No, Bryn will not be in voice. Bryn will be in text. I was going to say. Bryn we won't record will turn into an article. Yeah. I know. Believe me, if it ever does happen, I've already said I am getting that scoop. No, we want to preserve the mystique of Bryn. I'd hate to hear Bryn have some kind of high-pitched or gravelly voice. I like the silence of Bryn. So yeah, or something crazy. So everyone's now making cracks about Bryn's potential accent, which I'll leave that in chat. We won't record that.
I have to ask Bryn what her accent like.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it's Canadian, right? So there's a lot of A in there, clearly. Anyway, thank you, Gracie. Thanks everyone for coming out, and I hope I get to see you out here the rest of the week.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, so that's a wrap for our show. But yay! Thanks everyone.
Very cool. I think this is one of the best talks I've had.
Oh, good.
We always have good talks, but
have good talks. Yeah. I had a whole bunch of other stuff in my head to ask you too, but there's only so much time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, and people are welcome to turn on their voice and chat with us too in World if you want. If you're here and you want to do that, I don't think we have to. We don't have to run. We don't have to get kicked out of here. There's people. No, there's no one behind us at the moment.
Bye, Nikki. Thanks for coming.
Bye, Nikki. Hi, Harlequin. Go. You're sitting here next to Jazzy.